Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes, and this is the Daily Brief. I do Ukraine war news updates every day about this time, and I also do three big stories in the evening so that you can have a more comprehensive view of what's going on in the war in Ukraine. First thing we want to start with 1,200 Russian casualties yesterday. It's about where it's been for the last couple of months. 8 tanks, 15 armored combat vehicles, 62 artillery pieces, 85 vehicles and fuel tanks, 3 special equipment. It's been pretty hot on the front line, and you'll see that in some of the reporting here. So here's Andrew Perpetua first. It's about 1.5 to 1, Russian losses to Ukrainian losses, but not everything's equal. And I don't really unpack this like some others do. Like Johnny Pierce at ATP Geopolitics really gets into it and tries to unpack what this is. I do it as a broad overview. But I'm pointing this out because it's not all, you can't just say, well, there's 3 to 1 or 1 to 1 or whatever it is. Russians had 30 combat vehicles take some level of damage, including, and he lists them. Ukraine had 12 combat vehicles that took some degree of damage, and that's 1.5 to 1. So it's actually worse than it looks for Ukraine comparatively, even though it's not as many numerically, if that makes sense. Okay, Russia says it captures another Ukrainian village in the east. And this kind of thing is happening. Now, you have to take things with a grain of salt when Russia puts it out and then have to prove it. But this kind of thing is taking place. The battlefield situation is tense near Donetsk. Pokrovsk General Staff reports. Okay, so the situation in the frontline city of Donetsk and Donetsk Oblast is tense. Yeah, they're right on the front line, while the heaviest fighting is concentrated near Pokrovsk. Well, that's because that's the road that they're trying to take, where if they can cut this road off, they really have a significant advantage. I'll show you that on the deep state map in just a moment. Our troops repelled 29 attacks. Ukrainian troops fought off Russian advances near Kharkiv, Kupiansk, Lyman, Seversk, Kramatorsk, according to the update. Now, what was I talking about with the map? Here's Donetsk, and here's Pokrovsk. This is right on the front line. And this is, if they can capture this road, any place on this road, they can cut off the way that supplies are able to move one way or the other. And so they're really trying to get out this way. Okay. More of the same, talking about what's been happening over the last day or so. Ukraine's Army General Staff reported intense Russian attacks in the Pokrovsk area, the hottest situation on the front line. The invaders are pushing for gains. In Kharkiv area, Russian forces attacked positions at 3 times. Russian Defense Ministry said its forces had taken control of the village of Urotsanin in Ukraine's Donetsk district. General Staff, the armed forces, said Russia has launched 18 attacks on this and other nearby locations. Okay, so the Russians are fighting a different war. They're fighting kind of a ground war with aerial bombardment that may be hitting military targets or maybe targeting just civilian populations or that sort of thing. The Ukrainians are fighting a different war than that. They're trying to hold ground on the ground, and then they're trying to attack behind the lines, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But let's look at this first because the losses are pretty significant. And this is one Russian soldier talking about the losses. A Russian soldier from the 138th Brigade recorded an emotional video after a recent assault on Vovchansk, stating that out of 46 men, only 30 survived. The soldier, identified as Yevgeny Zarubin from Kursk, previously served in the Wagner Group and now trains and leads former prisoners in assaults. Many messages from relatives searching for missing soldiers after Vovchansk assaults have appeared on social media. He's not happy, clearly, and that the ratio is not terrible. It's not like D-Day kind of odds, but it's not good for one assault, right? So this kind of thing keeps happening, and part of the reason it keeps happening is a general is going to get a medal for just keep sending these guys into the fray to take another few kilometers, right? I mean, they're really those lives are being sacrificed wasted even fairly needlessly. Here's another Russian soldier, and this is Anton Gerashenko reporting this. We camouflage ourselves. Now, where are they talking about? They're in Mariupol, where they occupy. We camouflage ourselves. We walk around in civilian clothes. A Russian soldier complains about the hostile attitude of local pro-Ukrainian residents in temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories. He talks quietly and is dressed in civilian clothes. There's a reason for that. They weren't welcoming you. They didn't want you. You invaded. That's why you're getting this hostile reaction. Okay. Meanwhile, I said the Ukrainians are fighting a different war. The AFU General Staff reports strikes against 2 enemy control centers and an ammunition depot. Ukraine's air, missile, and artillery forces hit these 2 control centers and a depot, an air defense system, 3 artillery systems, an electronic warfare station, 6 areas of concentration of personnel, the Armed Forces of Ukraine has reported as of 8 a.m. on Monday. Russia claims Ukrainian drone attack against occupied Crimea. So this was interesting as well. This drone attack early on July 15th, that's today, on a coastal area south of Sevastopol, claimed, okay, so the head of the military, the occupied government claimed that at 4 a.m. local time, listen to this, the Russian defenses shot down at least 1 drone over Cape Follent on Crimea's southern coast. So they shot down 1, but the attack ended at 6:20. It started at 4:10 a.m. So seems like some things were getting through, resulting in damage after a drone fragment fell on a house, but leaving no casualties. That seems somewhat unbelievable. What's more believable is this. Russian military unit near Cape Follent, same place, was attacked in temporarily occupied Crimea. There were 8 explosions, Crimean telegram channels report. This is a division of S-400, S-300 missile systems from the 12th Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment. It's likely that one of the radar stations was damaged. There was also an explosion at the S-400 position, and they're waiting for official confirmation. So it wasn't just that a fragment fell, but that's what's always reported, and it's almost laughable. Drones also attacked a television tower and electrical substation in Kursk, Russia. Incredibly, there's not a single gas station still working in Sudzha, thanks to Ukraine. Sudzha is just a small little city over the border, town over the border. Okay, Zelensky is, it's the day of Ukrainian statehood, and he's making his speech about that. And he says this, Ukraine, I just want to highlight these words. Ukraine will not succumb to the evil that sheds blood for its own sick self-assertion. That's what Russia's doing. That despises truth, both human and divine, and devalues everyone except itself. Russia builds its statehood precisely on this. But we are different. And I believe that's true. They are different. They're defending. Ambassador Bridget Brink says the day of Ukrainian statehood serves as a reminder of Ukrainians' dedication and determination on their path toward freedom, independence, Euro-Atlantic integration, despite Russia's illegal and brutal war. The U.S. is proud to continue to stand with you. Okay, yesterday, Foreign Minister Lavrov, I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to summarize quickly. Foreign Minister Lavrov wanted to use the UN as a forum because the Russians are in charge of the Security Council. It rotates across nations, and Russia's in charge. And they wanted to use the forum to talk about the atrocities in Bucha, but from his perspective, these are made-up fabrications from the West, and they want to bring these out. Well, why did they want to bring this out right now? Well, it's because of the timing of the Children's Hospital incident, and they want to use this to say, see, this is all fabrications from the West. Just like this Children's Hospital, it's fabrications from the West. And they want to make the case, for example, that Russia did not attack Ukraine. It was just defending itself. Or that it was NATO that attacked Russia. Or that all war crimes against civilians in Ukraine are staged, like Bucha. Or Russia is not shelling Ukrainian cities. Western air defense is doing that. And so they're trying to really skew the narrative by putting out this false information. And that's pretty twisted. Okay, meanwhile, Putin is destroying Ukraine's energy infrastructure. It makes the war more costly for Ukraine. It's caused official FX reserve losses to accelerate. Putin's plan is to make Ukraine as financially vulnerable as possible. It's actually a pretty good strategy to make your enemy as financially vulnerable as possible. And that's what Ukraine's doing by going after oil reserves. But this didn't have to happen. If they had adequate air defense, it wouldn't have been a problem to defend like the electrical substations and things along those lines. Ukraine needs 25 Patriot systems to fully secure its airspace, said Zelensky in a press conference. Zelensky also noted that the Patriot's not the only system Ukraine needs to protect its skies. Now, I'm not sure if he's saying 25 systems and maybe it could be supplemented with these others, or 25 plus these others. Either way, to put that in perspective, Israel, the entire nation of Israel, only has 8 Patriot systems. And Ukraine only has a handful of systems currently, so 25 is a tall order. But you have to do something. If you won't allow Ukraine to hit, Russian jets over in Russia, except for a very small area, you have to do something here, and that's what would be necessary. Okay. And again, I showed you a variant of this kind of cartoon the other day, but it's true. What Russia is doing is very different than what Ukraine is doing in character. Ukraine keeps targeting military facilities, oil facilities, things along those lines, right? Trying to grind them down, where Russia seems to be indiscriminate about hitting civilian targets, and that's a shame. Okay, I try to end with something funny or something interesting or whatever. So there's this meme like, I bet he's thinking about other girls. The wife saying here, her husband's thinking about something. What's he thinking about? He's thinking about other girls. No. Plastic dinosaurs are real dinosaurs. And the thought process is a dinosaur becomes dinosaur bones, which becomes fossil fuel, which becomes petroleum, which is turned into plastic, and then that's turned into plastic dinosaurs. Like, okay, guys, we have a nothing box. We can just go somewhere in our minds that's just like shutting off, or we can just think about some absurd things. I like this variation a little bit better. I bet he's thinking about fundraisers for Ukraine again. Aw. How about that? Speaking of fundraisers, Pete the Medic's last fundraiser is up to £103,000 out of £320,000. If you feel moved to donate there, please use the official link only. This is the donorbox.org Project Tetiana link. Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.